Hi guys. Welcome to, I guess, episode one of Catalina's Classroom, the podcast. I don't know if I guess it's a podcast because it's a voice recording and you guys can just walk away as you listen to me. Hopefully, not ramble, but I likely will. Won't be perfect the first time. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Kat of Catalina's Classroom, and I am a holistic acne herbalist. I specialize in helping women overcome adult acne, post birth control, or drugs like doxycycline and Accutane using holistic herbalism. Um, but for this episode, we will not be talking about acne. We'll be talking about studying herbalism and how to start doing it seriously if you're interested in adding it to your arsenal of holistic knowledge. So, if you're already a nutritionist, if you're already an iridologist or a chiropractor, and you really want to add herbalism into your practice and start racking up those plant knowledge tidbits, you can stay tuned for that. Or if you're somebody who's just starting out, you just realized, oh my goodness, I want to be an herbalist. I've never done anything holistic before. I've never stepped into this industry. I don't know where to start. You can stay tuned too. This is for you. So get cozy, go make a cup of tea, go do some chores. Try not to sit down, I guess. Or if you're tired, you can sit down. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But whatever it is, just be open to receive what we are going to talk about today. I'm going to try my best to guide you in the right place because I know how overwhelming it can be when you're just starting out in a journey. And learning about herbalism is a never ending journey. You will be a student for life. And I'm going to make that a little less scary for you. So let's get into it. Let's do a little need to know about herbalism. What a lot of people don't know is that herbalism is not a regulated practice, at least in America. However, state by state, you might have different rules. In New Jersey, you do not need to be recognized by any institution to be a practicing herbalist. So, how a doctor or a chiropractor needs a license in order to practice, that license doesn't exist for herbalists. Anyone could wake up tomorrow and say, you could wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm opening up an apothecary and I'm going to start seeing people. And you can do that. No one can stop you. So if you're already kind of wrapped up in where should I go to school, how important are certifications, there is no place that can make you a certified or board recognized or institution recognized. You can have independent institutions like from a college or from the American Herbalist Guild, but there's no licensing there. So that brings us to what schools are worth it, or is it worth going to herbalism school? In short, yes, I think it's worth it going to herbalism school, whether online or in person, for a couple reasons. Number one, you want to be as ethical as possible if you want to go down the clinical route of herbalism, meaning you want to work one on one with clients. If that's your goal, you need to hold yourself to a certain standard by investing in your education. Can you do this through self study? Yes, of course you can, but you can't cut corners. And the thing that stands out the most when you have access to a classroom, whether physical or online, is you usually have a community of people and mentors who have previous experience who can make things easier for you, who can give you the knowledge that you're looking for in a quicker, more concise way, as opposed to you doing hours of self study by yourself, scrolling through forums, purchasing books, not really knowing where to start with purchasing books. So I think that studying herbalism with a teacher, with a school, is definitely worth it. I personally have taken a course with the Eclectic School of Herbal Medicine, and I'm currently enrolled in the School of Evolutionary Herbalism, their Vitalist program, which is directed and meant for people who want to go down the clinical route. I think it's really helpful. I really like the program so far. Are there other options? Yes. Are you somebody who does not like doing online school? Do you work better in person when you have a person to person relationship with your peers or with your teachers? You can find schools near you. If you're looking for a directory, go to AmericanHerbalistGuild.com. They should have, if you scroll down or somewhere in the About page, they should have a directory of colleges all around America. I'm not sure if they include places like Europe or South America, but I definitely for sure know that they have America. And you can search state by state. I'm in New Jersey, so in New York City there is Arbor Vitae, and then there's also Sacred Vibes Apothecary, which I'm not sure if they would be listed onto the directory. I just know that their brick and mortar offers a mentorship and apprentice program that you can pay for. But that's a good way to start if you're somebody who doesn't want or isn't interested in the online route. Next on the agenda, what type of herbalist do you want to be? Because that's going to dictate what type of program that you go into. I know you guys heard me mention clinical, which I explained is when you meet clients, you meet on a client to client basis. But there are some of you out there who might want to be a family herbalist. You want to brush up on medicine making skills or formulations. Some of you want to go into beauty and skincare, and some of you just it's a hobby for you. It's something that intrigues you that you want to nurture inside of you. And all of those are a-okay. I'm going to go I'm going to try to go one by one for everything I just mentioned. But if you're somebody who's listening to this and you really want to make products for beauty and skincare, hair care, all of that, I highly suggest the Herbal Academy. They have a beauty course available. I believe they also have different sub courses where it goes into skincare, hair care, whatever it is that you're interested in studying. I think that they're a really awesome school if you are super interested into the medicine making part of herbalism. There's very different sects of herbalism too. There are some people who are super interested in the plant chemistry and the science of it all. Some people are interested in the clinical, holistic part of it. Part of studying herbalism, like I said before, is figuring out where you fall on that spectrum. If you are somebody who wants to do products, or you want to have a business, and you also want to maybe take clients in the future, I still think that the Herbal Academy is a really good place to start. They also have, I believe, beginner, intermediate, and advanced slash clinical courses available for purchase, where you will learn more about how to take clients and how to recognize patterns and formulate in a clinical setting, as well as learning how to make medicine. A lot of programs don't touch upon making medicine as much as they probably should, so I think that's a really good place to start, but it is online. If you are a family herbalist, the Eclectic School of Herbal Medicine has a really good family herbalist course or package available for you to do an independent study for. I believe all of these courses are self study and self paced, but you do get access to a community usually. So, like, it's a Facebook group or through their own platform, but that's what a lot of these programs will offer is community, because one of the hardest parts about studying herbalism is literally learning how to make your own deductions and discovering a plant all by yourself and creating its own personal profile. It helps so much to have mentors and teachers who can say, oh, when I use this plant on a specific person, I had this result. Or when I saw this type of client, I knew by looking at their complexion, their tongue, the reason why it looked like this, and I knew that it was their liver that was debilitated or their heart. It helps so much having that personal experience from someone who's a little bit well more seasoned than you are. If you're somebody who really wants to be an herbalism entrepreneur as well, and you're really interested in the legalities of developing your own herbal business, I would suggest going to Chestnut Herb School. I forget what their exact name is, but they have a free PDF guide on starting out in herbalism that also includes information on things like good marketing practices, which are mandatory if you're going to have a product based business. And it goes also, I believe, into the legalese of developing products because, as you guys know, we have to work with the FDA. So, terminology is really important when we're discussing and making herbal products and selling them online. because you are not allowed to say it off there, but you are not allowed to say that you can treat or diagnose anything with herbs. So you have to be very careful. Now let's move on to how to begin your self study or studying as an herbalist and taking it seriously besides coursework, besides figuring out what type of herbalist you want to be. It's really important that you build up your arsenal of knowledge. But we'll get a little bit more. I have like a little gem I want to add to that. You need to start somewhere, and I don't know who needs to hear it, but the worst thing that you can do is try to pick out the perfect book, the perfect herb to start with. It's okay to do your research and make sure that you are starting with tools that are have cosigns by people that you look up to or people in in this industry who you trust. But don't get too hung up on getting the most expensive textbook. And no one really told me to do these things. I my brain just researches stuff. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to herbalism. So the first thing that I did was that I just picked an herb that I really liked, that I was already working with, and I believe it was ginger. And I started building a plant profile. So, what is a plant profile? A plant profile is a monograph. This is where you're going to record and do all your research regarding the energetics of the plant constituents like tannins and volatile oils, as well as anti action. So, is this herb, you're going to be collecting all the data on, is this herb anti inflammatory? Does it have research of it being anti cancer? That noise, I was plugging in my laptop. But you're going to list all the anti actions that you can find on this herb. Um, this is also where you're going to record. If you're really interested also in the history of the herb, I am a history nutcase. So I very vividly remember learning about garlic and how garlic was used in the ancient Greco Roman times as an herb of endurance. They would give garlic to warriors and to gladiators before they battled because they believed it helped with their strength levels. So, if those are also points of interest for you in herbalism, you can dedicate a portion of your plant profile towards the history of the herb. I also like to use the plant profile to contain things like the Latin name for the herb, if it's related to any different species, if there are any really special plant constituents that make this herb stand out. For example, in my plant profile on turmeric, I have a whole section on curcumin, which is an active plant constituent and is responsible for the notorious anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric that everyone loves and knows so well. And when you collect this research, read as many blogs, studies as you can, and also I started with maybe one or two books. And the books that I started with were The Modern Herbal Dispensatory and The Yoga of Herbs, as well as another book that I cannot remember for the life of me, but I will probably link it down below for you guys to see. Um, don't try to run yourself too thin trying to get every single source that you can possibly find. Just start with what you have. That's the most important thing. And the thing is that a lot of people get really overwhelmed, especially when we talk about herbalism or anything in health, because you want to know everything. You want to make sure that you're being as ethical as possible and that you're delivering the best information to your audience or to your clients, but you will never know everything. You will know as much as you do in the moment or in the time frame that you're putting in the work to study. And as long as you're putting in consistent daily action to build your education, that's all that really matters. That is a lot more sustainable than just studying for 5 hours once every 2 months. You're never going to retain anything like that. Also, when we talk about building a plant profile, you want to build a relationship with the herb. And this is something that I don't really see a lot of people on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram talking about, but I have heard and seen from my coursework of my teachers and mentors talking there. But what does it look like to build a relationship with the plant? Very simply, you need to familiarize yourself through touch and through taste, through the senses. So, for example, my first herb was ginger. So, I was drinking ginger, taking ginger shots, and building the plant profile sounds like writing down. When I drink fresh ginger, it makes my tongue dry, meaning that it might have astringent properties. And when I drink fresh ginger, I also feel a warmth in my stomach. So the herb inside of the body is very warm, which means that its energetics are warm and usually stimulating. You want to record how also, if you notice, if you have any type of emotional or mental, I don't want to say effect, but I guess effect to the herb. So you can also, for something like ginger, for me and for many people out there, my sinuses clear up. I feel a lot more alert, which plays into that whole being stimulating as an energetic again. But developing that relationship with the plant looks like using your senses in order to get to know him. You know how when you date or when you start to become friends with somebody, you are using all your senses to be present with the person. You are learning about their likes, about their dislikes. You're learning about their background, and that's the same exact thing for the plant. You're learning about the plant's history. You're learning about the plant and what environments and tissue states it does well in, and what the benefits are, if there are any side effects to the plant. So a plant profile can also, very important, can contain contraindications. And what contraindications are in herbalism are when an herb should not be used in a case by case basis. Excuse me. So, for example, ginger may not be or will be contraindicated in people who have hyperacidity or a hyperacidic stomach because it's going to make the stomach more acidic. Or ginger could be contraindicated for people who are showing excessive signs of dryness or heat in the body, like dry skin, um, red face, because it's a very drying and warming herb as it is. So this can also be built into your plant profile. I also advise, especially if you're listening to this and you really want to start seeing clients soon, if that's one of your goals, make a note of possible medication interactions. This is really important, especially if you're going to see clients, because you never know if somebody's on birth control or SSRIs, which could interact with herbs. Even though something is natural, like a plant, it doesn't mean that it's harmless, or it doesn't mean that it's not going to affect the way that other substances are being absorbed and experienced in the body as well. So you want to be very diligent with that. For example, something like St. John's wort has a load of contraindications because it can cause hyperphotosensitivity, so it can make you sensitive to the light. It does not interact well with SSRIs, and people on birth control should not take it. So that is also part of the plant profile. So let's review. Hopefully I get all of it into what I'm about to say now, and if not, hopefully you guys have this written down. But in your plant profile, you got to have anti-actions. You have to have the Latin name, the English name, the energetics of the plant, as well as possible contraindications, side effects, history, and contraindications, as well as specific indications. So I love specific indications. A lot of my practice is brought up on specific indications. And what specific indications are in herbalism are key characteristics of a plant that align to the person. So, for example, burdock root is specifically indicated for people who are suffering from boils or skin issues like acne or eczema, as well as people who are bitchy, oh, sorry for cursing, frustrated or angry at the world. These are all specific indications. You can find this information in books that you will be reading. For example, the Modern Herbal Dispensary has a little bit of specific indications, as well as the yoga of herbs. But this is something that comes on a little bit more later. But everything I said before is a little bit more of importance. So you started building your plant profiles. You have a notebook filled with information, and I'm so proud of you for you in this hypothetical situation or realistic. You could already be at that point in your journey. Is that where you stop? No. I highly, 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 highly suggest in starting your herbalism journey, get a book of the flora and fauna that grows around your area. I have one. I will link one that I have down. I have a couple. I have like 3 books for East Coast, Northern East Coast plants and herbs, and specifically New Jersey, that helps you identify the plants. Um, get yourself a book on your local agriculture so you can go out, go take a hike, and go forage. Go get real life, up close and personal to the plants that you eventually want to start working with. Um, Rule of thumb though, when you do go forage, you never take more than what's left. You always want to leave for not just other herbalists if they eventually go there, but for the earth itself. It's a sign of respect. But you don't want, the point of this is that you don't want to become an armchair herbalist. And what an armchair herbalist is someone who has the entire textbook collection and knows all the statistics and the studies off the top of their head, but they've never actually worked with plants or getting their hands dirty or formulating. And you don't want to be that. In order to develop, I don't want to say a sixth sense, but to develop a closer relationship with herbs, you need to be out there in the trenches with them. And if it makes you a little bit nervous and you have imposter syndrome about it, it's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. Just start. How I started was I would just take myself on nature walks. I live in a suburb, so there's not a lot of nature, but you'll be surprised about the amount of weeds that grow in New Jersey that are actually medicinal. So I would take my book, and I would occasionally take my phone, which I also have a plant identifier app on, which you guys can download. It's called Picture This off the not Google App Store. I have an iPhone off the App Store. You can download that and just go around and start identifying plants and start reading the book that you've brought on what medicinal properties there are of the plant, what conditions it grows in, how you can prepare it. I don't suggest foraging in a suburb because there's a lot of pollution here. If you're going to forage, go do it in a forest itself. Um, but yeah, this is a huge part of studying herbalism. You want to get out in the world because this profession is not something that's clean and something that is um, meant to be, I almost want to say, like pretentious or holier than thou. It's dirty work, not just in the sense of being out in the wilderness, but if you decide to be a clinician, a clinical herbalist, you're going to be listening to people about the issues they've had, both emotional, mental, physical. It's real out here. But it's so rewarding, guys, I promise you. And you probably know that from wanting to listen to this podcast or this video, which thank you for being here, by the way. I don't think I thanked you guys. But yes, you want to start getting real life application, not just through foraging, but also cook with herbs too. Do your best to formulate, make juices, make syrups, and you don't need to download a course to know how to do that. There's so many free blogs out there. You just have to pick one to start. So if there's anything that you do tonight, here's a couple things. Buy a clean and clear, doesn't have to be, okay, you know what I'm saying. Buy a new notebook just for monographs. Pick one herb to start with to start building up. Now, how long should you spend on this monograph? Some herbalists say 2 weeks, other herbalists say a month. I say, I'm known to rush, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but a month is a really good amount of time to dedicate to getting to know an herb fully. So I would say 3 weeks to a month would be helpful. Get a notebook for your monographs. Get a wilderness/foraging book for the flora and fauna in your state. Think about and journal about what type of herbalist you really want to be. And then if you're interested in coursework, start researching. So, for example, if you just want to, not just, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. If you want to be a community or a family herbalist, look up family herbalist packages and courses and try to find something that's for you. And the last one is stop getting in your head. Oh, wait, I have another one. Purchase one book that you want to start with studying herbalism. And then the very last one, don't get in your head. Don't get in your head. Don't feel like you are behind. You should have started sooner. There's no time better than the present. And, you don't have to, as long as you are dedicated to your learning process, you could easily, it's not a competition, but I'm just saying, you could easily further and enrich your knowledge on herbalism if you decide to be consistent and commit to the journey rather than somebody who's just dibble-dabbling whenever they want to. There's no such thing as being too late. And as for studying tips, you do not have to dedicate a straight hour every day. You can start with 5 minutes. You can start with 10 minutes, especially if something like researching is not something that you enjoy. It's something that I love so much. Whereas I like formulating too, but research just, it's the most amazing thing to me. But start small. If you can commit to 5 minutes a day to building up a plant profile on garlic, then do that for the next month. And just remember to show up. That would be my number one study tip. A lot of people get hung up on wanting to learn everything about every single herb, but the reality of herbalism is that a lot of herbalists fall back on not a select few, but kind of a select few when they begin formulating. And you can do a lot with knowing only like 15 to 20 herbs. I use a lot of the same herbs for most of my clients, but just in different doses, as well as if I have to use something that I've never used before, I'll dedicate time and research to making sure that it's a better fit for them. But you don't have to know everything all at once about every single herb. It's just as valuable to know pages and hours and just accumulation of one herb rather than just knowing a little bit about a few hundred. Depends on your personality, though. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only here to share what I know. But I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope I touched on everything that you hoped I was going to touch on. And yeah, just remember that to behave and to act accordingly with integrity, especially in a practice where it's not very regulated. There are people who trust you, and you want to make sure that you are showing up for them in the best way, safest way possible. And if you guys have any questions on this particular episode or any suggestions for what you want to see next, feel free to DM me, leave a comment under this video, and we will talk again soon. Until next time.